Alafia, peace, and welcome to the next episode of the Black Healing Summer Session, a season-long journey into rest, release, and renewal. I'm Amma Robin, humble host and seer storyteller at You Ain't Imagining This, a Black storytelling sanctuary. This summer, we're doing something a little different. We are slowing down together. Over 7 weeks, we will concentrate on stories, reflections, and comforting moments created to help you lay your burdens down bit by bit and remember your own humanness. Because healing isn't something you earn, it is something you deserve. Let me repeat that. Healing isn't something you earn. It's something you deserve. Today's episode is the third in our healing series, and it takes a slightly different form. Instead of a first-person narrative, I chose to tell this truth through the lens of a folktale. And here's why. Well, first of all, y'all know I love folktales, but there's more to that. Folktales I consider to be ancestral technology. They have always been a way to speak the unspeakable, to name the danger without naming particular names, and to pass wisdom across generations. And this is all done without shame, without violence, and without losing you, the listener. And this genre shift, well, it gives us something else too. It gives us all a safe and spacious container to reflect on these painful truths, especially truths around betrayal or spiritual misuse. I'm going to explain that later. Without being re-traumatized. That's a really big one for me, because I don't think we pay much attention to re-traumatization. Trauma is on people's lips now, but not how we can be re-traumatized. And that's so important, and it's almost as important as trauma itself. This kind of storytelling acts as both a cultural mirror and a protective veil. It lets us see ourselves and our communities more clearly while softening the edges just enough to breathe through it. So that's why I chose the folktale genre, and I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts about it. You know, when the truth is hard, folk tales make it sacred. And today's truth is this. Not every circle is safe. Not every rhythm is sacred. And not everyone who enters our space comes with good intentions. Let's think on that for a minute. So this story is a mirror, a memory, and a warning. It's about what happens when something once protective becomes unsafe and what it takes to rebuild. Here are 3 things to listen for today. The moment the elder lays down her drum and what that silence means. The repeated reminder, a circle must breathe as one or it cannot breathe at all. You're going to hear that throughout. And third, the quiet return of rhythm, led not by power, but by purpose. And I have only 2 requests. Only 2 requests here as you listen. 1, please come as you are. And number 2, take what you need. And if you're here today, this is what I know about you. Of course, this is what I think. Please tell me if I'm wrong. I'm open to that, but this is my thought. You've been a part of a circle that mattered. Maybe one that held you close, or maybe one that hurt you deeply. And you understand the beauty and fragility of the circle. And finally, you're ready to protect your peace even when it means starting over. Okay, if this story resonates, I invite you to subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and make this your space, a place to come home to when you need it most. Let's begin the story, and remember to stick around after the story because we're going to have our Beyond the Story section where we go deeper and where we get realer. Yeah, realer, is that a word? Well, I'm using it today as where we get realer. Let's begin. The circle we couldn't save. There once was a village named Jafur, a village in the Gambia, nestled by the great river and rooted deep in the rhythm of the land. Every full moon, the people of Jafur would gather in a wide circle just as their ancestors had for generations. They came not to perform, but to remember, to connect, to breathe together. Each person brought their own drum, carved from wood and memory, stretched with skins blessed by the elders. The circle was always the same, quiet at first, then steady, then full. The rhythm would rise like breath, slow and steady. Everyone knew the wisdom that a circle must breathe as one, or it cannot breathe at all. And oh, when it did breathe, the ancestors danced. The fire flickered in joy, the sky held its breath. One moon, a stranger arrived. They carried a drum like none had ever seen, shiny, polished, carved with symbols no one recognized. The villagers welcomed them, as they always did. The circle was sacred, but it was also open. The stranger sat down, nodded once, and then began to play. It was impressive, loud, fast, precise. But it did not listen. It did not wait. It played over others. It broke the breath of the circle. Still, many were dazzled. So much talent, they whispered, so much power. A few younger drummers even started copying the style. Faster, louder, bolder. The rhythm shifted. The fire dimmed. And still the stranger played. But one elder paused. Her name was Ma Tama. She whispered to the wind, "A circle must breathe as one, or it cannot breathe at all." She set down her drum. She would not play again. Weeks passed, and the rhythm grew more chaotic. Arguments broke out, quiet at first, and then sharp. Some said, "You're being too sensitive." Others said, "This is how we grow." But something was wrong. The breath was gone. The ancestors stopped coming. And then, one full moon night, the circle stood empty. No drummers, no fire, no rhythm, just silence. But in that silence, a single sound began. Doom, 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 doom. It was soft, simple, steady. At the edge of the circle, sat a boy named Dadabi, young, quiet, always watching. He held an old drum passed down by his grandfather. No polish, no shine, just truth. He beat the rhythm of the land, of his breath, of the old ways. He did not try to be loud. He did not try to lead. He just played. One by one, the others returned, not the loud ones, not the ones who craved applause, just the true ones. They brought drums that had waited patiently, and they breathed together again. A circle must breathe as one, or it cannot breathe at all. The fire flickered, the sky sighed, and the ancestors came home. This time, the circle was smaller. It was quieter, but it was sacred. And when the rhythm rose again, it rose not to impress, but to remember, to protect, to honor what could not be faked, forced, or fractured again. Because some circles cannot be saved, but new ones can be born, with steady hands, with honest drums, with breath that moves as one. And you ain't imagining this. That was long ago, and also not so long ago. The names may be different now. The circle might look like your family, your healing space, your spiritual home, or your team. But the lesson still lives. Not every rhythm belongs. Not every voice is safe. And sometimes what breaks cannot be mended, but it can be remembered. And that takes us directly to the Beyond the Story section. Remember I said this is where we go deeper and where we get realer. I hope that you enjoyed that folk tale. Hope you enjoyed the story. That story may be set in another time, in another place, but we know it's not just about drums and distant villages. It's about now, and it's about us. Because broken circles are not ancient problems. They're everyday realities for Black people. I remember I recently saw the movie Sinners, and I remember the powerful juke joint scene. Ooh, I guess we all remember that, right? And everyone was dancing and connecting, and the cultures and the ancestors were all right there. The circle was truly complete. Then the others showed up and wanted to be invited in. We know now that they were vampires and that they were not allowed to enter. They couldn't enter unless they were invited in. Initially, the twins didn't trust the white strangers, told them to go on up to another hall up the road. But we know now what happened. Okay, spoiler alert, if you don't know. We know now these strangers created fear and distrust among the people in the juke joint that caused them to be invited in. And I won't even go into what happened after that. We all know. But the main point is that the circle was broken. This is a fictional example, from Sinners, but it was also a folk tale in a way too, because it showed how easily a circle can be broken. I've personally been a part of a lot of circles, we all have been, that seemed really strong, that seemed stable, and that seemed united, but it only took one incident or one person to break that circle. Speaking from a long time ago, I remember my high school basketball team, we were doing great. We were winning. We had a great coach. We had great cohesion. We were winning. And then a new player from another school came over. And she created distrust in the coach because he wouldn't let her play immediately. Because she's from a new school. We didn't know her. And so he made her sit on the bench for a while. And so she started whispering to people about the coach, how the coach is being unfair, how the coach, was sexist and all that. She was very subtle, but it was very effective. And as people stopped trusting the coach, well, guess what? We didn't win the championship that year. I've also seen it happen in my church, in my book club even, and even in groups of friends. Sometimes our sacred spaces, the places where we should feel seen and safe and supported, get broken. They get fractured. And sometimes it happens slowly and gradually. It gets chipped away at slowly. Sometimes it happens real fast. But either way, something precious is lost. And sometimes it's gone forever. The truth is, even the strongest circles can be broken. Sometimes from the outside, by infiltration, or by sabotage, or by systems designed to divide us, like social welfare systems that break up black families, or like this white supremacist system that says, people with lighter skin are this way and people with darker skin are that way, and, helps to divide us up. And that's exactly what's happened. Sometimes it happens from the inside, through our own individual egos, or through forgetting why the circle existed in the first place. Sometimes we take that for granted, that it's here and it's always been here and it always will be here, and we find out that's just not true. And we've seen this before. During the civil rights and Black Power movements, groups like the Black Panther Party, SNCC, and others were infiltrated and undermined and criminalized even, by COINTELPRO, FBI. This strategy was clear. Sow confusion, build distrust, make us turn on each other. Unfortunately, it worked. But the tactics didn't start in the 1960s. They started way back on plantations, when enslaved families were separated, when trust was weaponized, when loyalty was punished severely. There was the house slave versus the field slave. There was the lighter-skinned black person, the mulatto, versus the darker-skinned black person working in the field. And these kinds of behaviors and this division continues today. Think about it, Black families are still pulled apart by incarceration, by poverty, by state intervention. That's right, that has always happened to us. Our Black-led organizations are often defunded, they're divided, and they're co-opted by the moment that they start gaining momentum. When they're just, out there sitting around talking, not doing anything, nothing happens. But as soon as they start being effective, they're targeted. Our HBCUs face underfunding. They face political attacks and attempts to dilute their purpose. I hear that some HBCUs have more non-Black people than Black people. That wasn't their purpose. And even our own healing spaces, our churches, our group chats, our circles of care, they can be weakened if we're not careful about who and what we let in. I know, because as Black people, we've always been excluded ourselves, so we don't want to exclude others. But unfortunately, we have to really think about who we let in our sacred spaces. So, what do we do with all of this? What do we do with all of this? We remember why the circle was built in the first place. A true circle isn't about performance or entertainment. It's not about who's the loudest or the most visible or the prettiest or the sexiest. It's about shared purpose. It's about breathing together. And it's about protecting something sacred. And, wait for it, here's the hard part. Sometimes we cannot save the circle we're in. I'm sorry, but sometimes we can't save the circle that we're in. Sometimes the rhythm has been disrupted too deeply. Sometimes the fire goes out. But that doesn't mean the circle has to be gone forever. That one probably does. But it means that it's time to rebuild with the right people, the right rhythm, and a clear understanding of what we're protecting. So, if you're listening right now, if you're still listening, I really hope you are, and I appreciate that you are. I want to offer you a few real questions and a call to action. Now ask yourself, what circles in your life feel sacred to you? Who are you in rhythm with? And, we can't ignore this, who's throwing you off a bit? Are you protecting your spaces? Or are you just letting anyone walk in? And if something's already broken, what is stopping you from rebuilding something new? I'm going to answer that one. Nothing. And I'm going to answer the previous one too. Are you just letting anyone in? Just like the Smokestack Twins didn't want to let in those strangers who were good musicians and seemed nice and respectful. They did not want to let them in because they know how strong the circle is, but also how fragile it is. So here's your call to action this week, if you choose to accept it. Name one sacred circle in your life, a space, a person, a group that deserves protection. Number 2, set a boundary or intention to protect its rhythm. Maybe that means speaking up, stepping back, or recentering the purpose. And number 3, if you're in a broken circle, give yourself permission to walk away. You don't have to hold something together that's already come undone. You're not wrong for feeling the shift, and you're not wrong for noticing the harm. You're not alone, and you're not imagining it. Because we rebuild in truth, we breathe in rhythm, and when the right circle forms again, you'll feel it. You will feel it in your chest, in your breath, and it will feel like home. And I promise, you ain't imagining that. Desana, thank you so much for staying with me through the story and the truth that came after when we went beyond the story. If this episode stirred something in you, if you're thinking about your own circles, past or present, I hope that you give yourself permission to feel whatever's coming up. Reflection is a part of healing, and so is rebuilding. The circle has always been sacred to us, from African drum circles to church pews, from kitchen tables to campus protest groups, from praise teams to parenting groups to poetry slams, and from black bookstores to Black Wall Street. Around the country, we know what it means to move in rhythm, to breathe together, and to hold one another. But sacred doesn't mean invincible. Even the strongest circles can be broken by betrayal, by burnout, by infiltration, and think about this one, by silence. Silence. In predominantly white spaces, our circles are often seen as a threat. We're watched, undermined, dismantled, policed. destroyed, sometimes violently, and sometimes subtly. We've seen it in movements, in classrooms, in boardrooms, in wellness spaces that were never really built for us. And even when we build something of our own, we still carry the echoes of those attacks. Think Black Wall Street. So when something goes wrong inside the circle, when trust starts to slip, it cuts deep, because we know what we've already survived to form that space. And here's a gentle reminder, and it really is a gentle reminder. Take it for what you want. You don't have to keep proving yourself to be included. You don't have to ignore your discomfort to keep the peace. And you're allowed to protect what's sacred to you. Sometimes the circle can be repaired, sometimes it can't, but the rhythm isn't lost forever. We can begin again. We help many times with honesty, with intention, and people who honor the breath. If this story moved you, and I really hope it did, I invite you to share it with someone else who's rebuilding, with someone who's been questioning their space or their silence. You never know who's carrying the weight of a broken circle. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode in the Black Healing Summer Session. We're just getting started. And if no one has told you today, you deserve to feel safe, you deserve to feel in rhythm, and you deserve rest, repair, and real connection. And as always, you ain't imagining this. I'm Amma Robin. I'll see you next time.